Okay, hello and welcome to another student development session. My name is Joanna and I'll be guiding you for today's session. If we haven't met before, I am a Your Yoga Flow alumni and faculty member. So I teach on the platform and I may have connected with you on the support email. I'm also part of some of the online programs. So it's an absolute pleasure to be able to share things with you on the Facebook Live. And my intention is that the offerings are useful and help to serve you as you prepare perhaps for your practicum, or perhaps you're already in the world of teaching and you're just looking for some inspiration or motivation in terms of your teaching, your planning and prepping your classes, your sequencing, and so on and so on. So if I can support you in any way, I'm here to do that. I know all of the highs and lows of being a yoga teacher, so I am more than happy to share what I'm learning on my journey. So that kind of brings us on to what we're going to be doing today. This is a part 3 to this session because the other two seem to be quite popular and quite useful to students. So we've tagged on a third and I'll keep doing them for as long as you want them. So basically this is how to theme a class and how to thread that theme throughout the class. So it's not just a case of mentioning the theme at the very beginning of the class and maybe just mentioning it again at the end of the class. There's a way to very mindfully thread the theme all the way through in terms of the choice of asana, your choice of meditation and pranayama, your choice of mudra and mantra, your choice of teachings, the way you sequence the class, your choice of music, and so on and so on. So I love it when I go to a practice and it seems like the teacher has really thoughtfully chosen every element of the class to match the theme or intention. I've also been to classes where that hasn't been the case, and that's not to say that the class hasn't also been enjoyable and beneficial, but there's just something very well-rounded about a class where the theme is threaded throughout, and it takes skill and it's an intelligent way of teaching. So I'm going to brainstorm like I've done for the other sessions, and I'll be sure to take pictures of what we do today so that there will be that visual available in the comments under this video. I've been choosing themes that are very popular so far, so hopefully that's been useful. So I'm going to kind of carry on along that thread today. We usually only get through about 2 themes, so I don't want to rush, but I also want to give you lots of information. Feel free to use these class plans for your own classes. For your practicum, feel free to adjust them so that it resonates truly with you. These are all just ideas and thoughts, and I found this a very useful way to plan my classes. But if you do have other suggestions, other ways that you like to do this, or you have another process, again, feel free to just write those things in the comments. This is a sharing space, so I would be super interested to hear how other people plan and deliver their classes, because maybe that will inspire me to move in that direction too. Okay, enough talking. Let's get into it. So the first theme I've chosen today is one of the elements. So, you know, the elements are earth, wind, fire, water, ether. And this could make a really lovely class series. Say if you're meeting the same group every week, on the same day, the same time every week, it can be a really nice way to plan a chunk of classes. So maybe you have a 6-week plan and every week you're going to tap into something that is interconnected to what you did the week before. So for example, the elements. So I've just picked the water element as our theme, and I'm going to sequence a class based on the water element, but you'll get the idea that you can do this for every single element. So let me just write down our theme in the middle. And apologies in advance for my writing. I hope you can read it. Okay. So the water element is the theme. And from there, I just start to kind of stem off ideas as to what that might look and feel like in a class setting. So for me, when I think of the water element, I think of fluidity, which makes me think of a vinyasa style class. So I'm going to teach this as a vinyasa class. When I think of water, I also think about the sacral chakra because that is governed by the water element. Sacral chakra, which is Svadhisthana. And the sacral chakra is located between the belly button and the pubic bone. And it's this space of creativity, fertility, fluidity. So it would be nice to incorporate asana that connect to this space of the body. So this space of the body might be a lot of hip openers, lower back, lower belly, what else comes to mind when we think about water? Perhaps grace, resilience. Pardon my spelling. Resilience. Okay. And let me think about perhaps, so we've got some asana ideas in here. We've got the hip openers, so you would think about shapes like pigeon pose, thread the needle, or figure four, deer pose. You could do things like malasana, yogi squat, or goddess, or lunges, warrior twos, things like happy baby, any forward folds, as that will massage the belly and give the lower back a release. Knee to chest pose on your back is massaging for the digestive system. Sufi grind, that circular motion, wonderful for getting to know what's going on in the hips, the back, and the lower belly. So that's an idea for asana, the kind of theming around the water element. In terms of pranayama, it might be nice to continue that focus on lower belly. So perhaps pranayama such as Durga would be good, that three-part breathing, because then there's an opportunity to expand lower belly and then bring it a little higher up into the chest and throat. For a meditation, I like the idea of waterfall meditation. Waterfall meditation. I'm just going to write that this is pranayama, in case anyone's not sure. Waterfall meditation, for me, when I teach that, I think about sitting nice and tall and visualizing water starting to pour down from the crown of the head all the way down the body and pooling out of the pelvis. And so you can encourage your students to visualize they're in a landscape and how that waterfall is moving through them. Is it moving quickly? Is it moving slowly? Is it trickling? Is it flowing fast? Is it having to manage and navigate obstacles? So that can be a really nice way to bring the water element into the meditation. The mantra I would choose would be I feel, because this is a mantra connected to the Sacral Chakra, second chakra mantra. And then finally for Mudra, I would pick Yoni Mudra, because Yoni Mudra is the thumbs and index fingers connected. You're making this triangular shape with your hands and then placing your hands onto the lower belly. So again, bringing things back to the sacral chakra, the lower belly, the hips. Okay, so now you can see our brainstorm and all the things that hopefully we will be able to include in a practice. Just to let you know, obviously for the practicum, we're asking for all of these elements to be included, but in a regular teaching setup, you might not always include all of these elements in every single class, and that's fine. But for now, let's imagine we are going to include everything. So now I try and create an order for things, knowing that maybe that order might change on the day, depending on who's showing up, but it's good to have a rough skeleton. So if we're beginning with the water element in a vinyasa practice, where might we start the practice? I would perhaps start the students in a sukhasana, and I think I would introduce the theme and introduce the concept of the sacral chakra and where that's located, and bring in the mantra I feel. So with I feel, you can either ask the students just to repeat those 2 words, or you could ask them to complete it as a full sentence based on where they're at in their day. And this is also nice to bring back at the end of the class, repeating the I feel mantra, maybe seeing if they feel the same or if the class has shifted them in any way. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the theme of water element being governed by the sacral chakra, and that leading us to the I feel mantra. I would then talk about the qualities of water, so the fluidity, the resilience, the grace, and how we might incorporate those qualities into the movement part of our practice. So I'm going to put all of these kind of descriptive words as number 3, as a teaching moment about water. And then I would get into fluid movement. So we would start to focus on our hip openers, the lower back, and the lower belly work. So that would be asana, number 4. And of course, after you've gone through this kind of web design, you would then probably write out a little more specific about the flow, the order of your asana, so that you have more structure there too. This is just the kind of very beginning skeleton of a class. So we've got into some fluid movement, and I'll bring back some of these key words throughout the asana portion of class. And then as we start to slow things down, I would invite the students into Durga Pranayama and have them rest their hands in Yoni Mudra while they do this, so that they can feel the hands expanding as they breathe into the lower belly. So Durga Pranayama would be number 5, along with Yoni Mudra. And you could do Durga Pranayama from a seated position, or you could do that from a reclined position, maybe leading into Shavasana. And then I would complete the practice with the waterfall meditation. So I would either do this just before Shavasana or after Shavasana. Again, kind of that might be determined on the day, or it might become more apparent as I get a little more specific with the plan. But that would be the next thing I would teach. And then I would return to the I feel mantra, like I said. So it's nice to bookend the class with the same thing, some repetition, a reminder of what the theme was and what the intention was, and just an opportunity for the students to check back in and see how they're feeling. Okay, so that is the water element. So you can see how you could move through that same kind of web design for the earth element, the fire element, the wind element. So hopefully that makes sense and that's useful. And like I said, I'll make sure to take a picture and post it to you guys. I'm hoping this will turn with ease. Okay, perfect. Okay, and the second theme I wanted to tap into was looking at body parts as themes for a class. So, for example, this Thursday on the live bi-weekly class, I'm going to be teaching a class for the shoulders. So the whole class will be themed around shoulder mobility, shoulder strengthening, releasing tightness and tension in the shoulders. And so theming classes around body parts is another great way to create content. So for our example here, we're going to use the hamstrings as our body part. Hamstrings. Okay, beautiful. And I've already decided that for a hamstring practice, it's going to be a hatha class, because I want us to take lots of time in poses, and I know from my own experience that the hamstrings are a sensitive area, so they need time and space to get into some of these lengthening shapes and releasing shapes. So that's another thing to note, that like you might already know, you might not have a choice as to what you're teaching, because maybe you're teaching in a studio and you're on the schedule to teach a hatha class every week at this time. So you already know the style of your practice, but you can obviously choose themes that you want that will connect to the style of your class. So it's not always the case that you can pick and choose the style of your class. Often that's already predetermined, but if you do have the choice, then that's great. That adds another element to your creativity as you go through this process of planning and theming. Okay, so body parts, the hamstrings. So thinking of things that come to mind for this, the hamstrings are connected to the root chakra. So root chakra is definitely going to be in this class. When we think about the hamstrings, it's often a tight or resistant area of the body. So we could talk to that. When we think about the hamstrings, we might think about the process of letting go or releasing. When I think about poses that connect to the hamstrings, I'm drawn to the pose of Hanumanasana, or splits or half splits, and the story of the monkey god, Hanuman. So maybe Hanuman, the monkey god, or Hanuman asana. Maybe that's a peak pose for this class. Question mark. It's also useful to note the areas of the body that the hamstrings stem from. So areas like lower back, glutes, and when you think about asana for the hamstrings, what types of asana come to mind? Let's imagine that Hanumanasana is going to be our peak pose. So let's think about different forward folds. You could have Janushirshasana, which is head to knee pose. You've got standing and seated forward folds. We've got poses like pyramid or triangle, maybe standing L shape, a balancing pose. And then also thinking about the other areas of those are four quadrants of the legs, right? You've got the hamstrings on the back, but you've also got the quadriceps on the top, and then you've got the adductors on the inside and the abductors on the outside. So maybe you want to incorporate some space into all of those areas, because that in turn may help the hamstring. So you could do some like strap work on your back, where you take one foot into the strap and come into a hamstring stretch, and then maybe take the leg wide to get into the inner legs, and then take the leg over to the left to get into the outer IT band. Those are quite useful ways to set up Hanuman. And then maybe some lunges, maybe some glute work. So maybe you would get into like lizard or dragon, as you may know it. Wow, it's getting a little hard to write down there. Okay, so those are your asana. And then in terms of pranayama, I thought it would be fun to do breath of joy, because in breath of joy, there is a forward folding element to that. So we know we go up with the arms straight overhead, out with the arms, up with the arms, and then we fold over our legs on the exhale. So I thought that'd be really useful pranayama to do, considering this is a hamstring class. So breath of joy, pranayama. And then for the meditation, I thought we could do she can, don't want to spell it incorrectly, she can tazi. This is the meditation of letting go, which meditation of letting go. So that ties in nicely with that letting go and releasing of the hamstrings. For mudra, I thought we could do Kispana mudra because that too is a mudra for letting go or pouring out. Kispana mudra. And then for mantra, I wrote down the Gayatri mantra, which is that universal prayer, a prayer on meditation, grace, divine, adoration. So I thought that would be nice, especially if we are mentioning the story of the monkey god, Gayatri mantra. Okay, I'm just noticing the time. I need to speed it up a little bit. So when you translate the Gayatri mantra, it would translate to earth, space, heavens. We meditate on the divine light of the radiant source. May that light inspire our hearts and minds. So here we have our whole web design, and now we need to figure out how to place all of this into a structure. So where to begin? Let's have a look. Okay, so I think I'm going to begin with introducing the theme and talking about the peak pose for the class and the story of the monkey god. So we would do one and just one here just to mention the peak pose, just in case anyone's not familiar with it. I think I would then talk about the areas of the body that are affected by the hamstrings and talk about the hamstrings being this delicate area of the body that we have to go carefully with so that people are mindful during their practice. So I talk about the lower back, the glutes, I talk about the tightness of that area, and then in the same moment I would talk about this being an opportunity to release and let go anything pent up, any tight, any resistance. So I would talk about the letting go concept there. After that, I would bring my students into some asana. So I would start them off in some hamstring work. Maybe we would start with the strap work on their backs, or maybe some seated forward folding options. So two, so this would be three. And then partway through the asana, I think I would bring them into the Shikantanze meditation because that's another opportunity or reminder to release and let go. So I think while they were still seated, I would bring them into the meditation. And then after the meditation, I would go back to some more asana. So this would then become 5, and maybe some of the standing poses, which would lead me nicely into standing pranayama, breath of joy. So that would be number 6. During the standing postures, I would bring in Kispana Mudra, the mudra of pouring out and letting go. So I would bring that in with 5 with the standing poses. And then at the end of the practice, after Shavasana, I would repeat the Gayatri mantra with the students. So that would be 5, 6, that would be 7. Okay. And I think that's everything. Okay. And yeah, like I said before, you would then kind of break this down a little bit further and maybe structure exactly the order of your asana as best you can, but also leaving space for things to change on the day. So I hope these have been useful for you. Again, I'll make sure to take pictures. And if you have any other themes that you'd like me to do this with, that you're kind of pondering as an idea for a class, then feel free to put them in the comments section. I would be more than happy to do another part to this. Or if you have any questions about what we've done today, or again, any suggestions about how you move through this process of creating your content and threading themes in your class, then please feel free to share. Okay, thank you so much and see you again soon. Bye.